in ceremony and to offer one another reflections of some of their deepest wounds. It's a lot of energy. A lot of energy to feel within the body, within the multidimensional body of our beings. And I am freshly out of one of these ceremonies. And I feel so very much. And I feel it all within myself. And so it belongs to me. Because I've come into this container with these men, with the agreement that we are being mirrors and support systems for one another, that we are brothers, that we are a fellowship. And though we may be nameless for now, our humanity is finding its way through its hues into awakening. Now working through the hue of red and fear in the root chakra system. Touching upon the deepest wounds that come from entering samsara from the womb of our mothers. Microcosmically, individually, coming out of each of our individual mothers' wombs into samsara, collectively feeling this deeper severance from the earth, from the seamless abundance of the earth. To its own suffering. I think I said humanity is addicted to its own suffering. Why? Well, because suffering in its innermost depths is actually a divine mirror. Suffering is the hand of God, gently, lovingly, sternly, scorching us with a flame of divinity to indicate to us that we are straying from the path of wholeness, of integrity, of self-care, of self-love, and of divinity. Hell itself presents itself in the form of external betrayal, in the form of our deepest fears manifest, in the form of all of our belongings, our possessions, our loved ones, not only being taken away, but betraying us. And not only betraying us, but literally deceitfully manipulating us. Specifically in order to betray us against our own knowledge, against our own innocence. all to shreds, to want to tear others to shreds, to want to tear ourselves to shreds, to want to tear our family to shreds, to want to tear the systems to shreds, and to destroy and to dwell in the chaos of that destruction, the chaos of that suffering, the suffering to which we are addicted. Why is this an addiction of ours? Why do we cling to it? Because sometimes a child will cry very, very, very exuberantly and energetically and overbearingly, so expressively. Why does that child cry? Because it wants to be held by its mother. When I was a child, I would throw the most ridiculous fits. I would scream at the top of my lungs, crying ceaselessly until I had what I wanted. Some toy at the store, some candy, some video game, some this, some that, some desire that I didn't even know I wanted. For that desire to be fulfilled. And I would cry until I had the thing that could temporarily fill that thing. Toy, candy, food, video games, which was what my mom would give me in an attempt to hold me. Because she, as my mother, could tell that I needed to be held. That any child who is kicking and screaming wildly in pain is asking to be held, that our addictions to suffering and the ways in which we express that suffering, in which we cling to that suffering, is so that we can express to the Divine Mother our need to be held. Our deepest angers, our deepest wraths, war itself, rage, all of it is just our inner child crying, asking to be held by the gentle mother, by the womb from which we were taken, or from which we willfully stepped out. For to be taken out of the womb is to call ourselves victim to this process, when in fact we willfully chose to enter samsara. We willfully chose this. And we each willfully chose to enter samsara in a time when there's hospitals, and instead of being birthed, and directly held by our parents and our mothers and our fathers. Oh my God. We were taken by the filtration system of hospitals, by some doctor in a white lab coat, wearing a mask, wearing plastic gloves made of petroleum, of the siphoned essence of the mother, plastic, upon the hands of the very thing that receives us. I'm going to repeat this. We willfully chose to enter not only samsara, but this particular instantiation, Kali Yuga, of samsara, wherein instead of being directly held by our mothers and our fathers upon our births, so-called, just like you birth a ship and a birth certificate and all of the liquidity and fluidity and water language that's associated with that, we chose to enter at a time when a doctor with petroleum gloves and synthetic lights beaming from the ceiling and the entire pharmaceutical industrial complex and the entire plasticity of that whole system microcosmically embodied in the quote-unquote doctor with an inverted caduceus somewhere like on his attire, for that being to take us out of our mother's womb and to filter us a little bit energetically before handing us to our mother. That in itself already being one of the biggest fucking traumas. I don't know why I'm laughing about it. I'm laughing because how fucking ridiculous it is. That crying infant who simultaneously was taken from his mother's womb, but who willfully, by way of his highest soul, and I say his because I'm speaking of 12 men here, as well as humanity, self-betrayals, war, poverty, even maybe even all of this fucking weird AI technocracy that is synthesizing reality, that is making weird replicas of reality as opposed to reality in itself, just like the doctor as opposed to a mother holding her child. There's a weird intermediary filtration system. And our inner children are crying within the collective with these ripples of sorrow, asking us to feel and asking Mother to hold. Perhaps Father as well. But right now we are in the realm of the root. And the roots go into the earth, and the earth is the mother. We are addicted to these pains. We are addicted to the mirrors of these pains. We are addicted to the self-betrayals of these pains, because every time that we look into that mirror, every time that we witness that betrayal within ourselves and within the without ourselves, we might come closer to remembering how to hold ourselves and one another from within, on behalf of the Divine Mother, which we are to ourselves. Who and what is the Divine Mother? The Divine Mother is the heart, and the heart is the earth. Earth being an anagram of heart. Our hearts ache with pain to which we are addicted, to which we cling. And who is asking to be held? grievances. They're crying for the mother to hold. But simultaneously, it is the mother herself. For it is our hearts which are yearning to be held. And given that I'm speaking of a men's gathering, we as 12 men come together in circle. And we feel our inner and outer mothers within our hearts asking to be held. And not merely asking. Really stirring deeply from within into tears, into pain, into sorrow, into chaos, into absolute overindulgence in the very things that cause us the very most pain. In order to be seen, witnessed, held, and loved. So what can we as men do? We can choose to renounce our victimhood of being taken by the man in the white lab coat into samsara. And we can take responsibility for the soulful choice which we made to come not only to feel the suffering, but to embrace it as the mirror of the divinity which we contain, and as an invitation to our inner and innate masculine potency to freely and willfully choose to witness this pain, to hold this pain, to hold the sacred feminine being which is crying for help, to hold our own wounded masculine beings which are crying for the mother. To choose from a masculine, transcendental place of free will to mother and father ourselves and to mother and father the world, back into feeling, and from feeling into healing, and from healing into wholeness and coherence. Healing and wholeness are etymologically interwoven. The breaths of the words themselves come from the self-same source. And what happens when we allow ourselves to hold ourselves, to choose to embody the inner heroes gamos within, to really feel and to witness our inner masculine, our inner fathers, and our inner feminine, our inner mothers, coming together within our hearts, within the core of our vivacious being, and holding the very heart which yearns for love. What happens is tears flow from our eyes. And those tears constitute the crystalline rivers of healing for us to renounce our pains, the pains of samsara itself. There there's a code coming through. And to more fully, more consciously, more willfully choose to reconnect ourselves to the divinity from which we feel ourselves to have been severed. This is the greatest illusion of all time. The belief that anything could sever itself from divinity. That's a whole other very complicated topic, which I will set aside for now by expressing that any step away from divinity, any sin, which is a misstep, which is a missing of the target, which is a stepping away, all of that happens so that eventually we can see, oh, I don't want to go there. I don't want to disconnect myself from divinity. I need to choose more willfully my divinity within myself. I need to choose God above all things. Above and within all things. For as above, so below. As above, so within. Put a bow on this transmission by sharing a mystical experience that I had years ago, which has been a massive part of my initiation and awakening journey. Maybe I'll share it more deeply another time, but what I will say is that in 2018, fresh out of college, I had been drinking a ton, and I'd broken my collarbone. And fast forward a few months, and I found my way into a sound healing experience in the Redwoods. And during that sound healing experience, I experienced the fullness of samsara. And when I say that, I mean to say that I could feel how the very microcosmic suffering of breaking my collarbone was actually directly, somatically, energetically interconnected with the suffering of every single sentient being within the universe. And that by inflicting suffering upon myself, by drinking myself to death at that time, I had gotten to a point where I broke my collarbone on the left side of my body, on the feminine side of my body. And that harm that I'd inflicted upon myself, I was actually inflicted upon the entire universe. And as tears, crystalline tears, were flowing from my eyes like fountains of absolute divine healing, and the Divine Mother and the Divine Father saying, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, you are forgiven, you are forgiven, you are beautiful, you are healing, you are whole, you are here, you are infinitely loved. As I'm crying these tears of absolute divine perfection, I can feel woven into these tears, as I'm feeling this it's okay energy. It's okay. You can just say no to the drinking. You can just stop inflicting the suffering upon yourself. You can just choose with your free will, which is the free will of the entire infinite universe, transcendently embodied within your microcosmic self. You can just choose to say no to that suffering. And you can choose otherwise. You can choose instead your healing, your bliss, your freedom. You can choose the things that do not weigh you down but lift you up. You can choose to love yourself, and in loving yourself, to love the entire universe and God. that self-love, which does require discipline, it does require that element of masculine discipline in this world, when the suffering is so deeply rooted and habituated into our bodies. Nevertheless, you and I both, and all of humanity, we have free will, and thus we have the freedom to choose to say no to the things that inflict suffering. And instead, we can choose love. That's it. That is the solution. So, what does choosing love look like for you? How can you choose to love your own heart, that your heart may amplify its own ripples of love? That's the question I pose to you. And as I pose it, as you can see, I'm driving. I'm behind this truck, which has an angel on it. A reminder that the angels of divinity are always here with us, loving us, protecting us, and guiding us into a deepening of love. Thank you. I love you. And may you feel the ripples of this love and this healing and this blessing within your life in whatever form it needs to take.